Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the George W. Norris Legislative Chamber for the 17th day of the 108th Legislature, first special session. Our chaplain for today is Senator Lowe. Please rise.
Please attain an attitude of prayer. Lord, as we start this day, help us remember that we belong to you and that our desires are to act accordingly. Keep our feet from stumbling, our minds from wandering into distractions that could steal precious time and energy from the most important things you have designed for us. We are proud to be your children, Lord, and we are fulfilled that we have been in this chamber doing the work for the people of Nebraska. And we are grateful that you gave your life for us, raising again on your own new morning so that every day could be filled with your wonder of your love, the freedom of your spirit, and the joy of knowing you. In your name we pray. Amen.
I recognize Senator Brandt for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I call to order the 17th day of the 108th Legislature, first special session. Senators, please record your presence. Roll call. Mr. Clerk, please record.
There's a quorum present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any corrections for the journal?
I have no corrections this morning, sir.
Thank you. Are there any messages, reports, or announcements?
Just one, Mr. President. Amendment to be printed from, a motion to be printed from Senator Wayne. That's all I have at this time.
Mr. Clerk, we will move to final reading. Members should return to their seats in preparation for final reading. Members should return to their seats for final reading. Mr. Clerk, the first bill, 34E.
Mr. President, first of all, there's a priority motion. Senator Linehan would move to recommit the bill to the Revenue Committee.
Senator Linehan, you are recognized to open.
I withdraw.
Without objection, so ordered.
In that case, Mr. President, Senator Linehan would move to amend the bill to return to select file for an amendment that be to strike the enacting clause.
Senator Linehan, you are recognized to open.
Withdraw.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, the next item we have, Senator Wayne would move to amend the bill with AM 130, would move to return to select file for a specific amendment, that being AM 137.
Senator Wayne, you are recognized to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. So when I walked in this morning, the matrix had a glitch. It showed me a press release from an alternate universe. And I sat down and tried to find Neo or Morpheus, but I couldn't quite get a hold of them this morning. But what that press release said was, if we send the governor sent the email to leadership saying, if we send LR 34 as is to his desk, he would veto it. And he would veto it because it didn't provide substantial relief to property owners nor renters. It said that he called us here to do something special, and we are failing to do that. And so since too many people in this body are afraid to take a vote before this election, he'll call us back after the election, and maybe we'll have the political courage to do something. It wasn't me who wrote that. I got it in the matrix. As I said, I think it was a glitch. It didn't mean to come to me, but somehow I got that press release from an unknown person. This amendment is simple. It removes electricity, residential electricity. I heard from Senator Von Gilleren multiple times How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Well, I included the pay for. A couple things we're going to do. We'll remove electricity by one, putting a sales tax on lottery. According to that number, it's about 7.1 million this year, 11 million the next year, 11.5 the following year. What that also does is give local cities and counties the ability to put their 2 cents on, 1.5 cents on it. So that that'll also give them from losing the ability to tax electricity. The next one is charter flights with pilots. I don't know too many middle and low income people who are chartering flights, so I feel like it's a great offset. That's 3 million this year, 5 million next year, 5 million the following year. Again, cities and counties, roughly about 1 million. Cities are roughly about 1 million, 1.5 million next year, and 1.5 million the following year. I had a big fight in the family about tattoos. I was going to tax them, but I took it out against my own wishes. But we'll do dry cleaning. That's 1 million this year, 1.5 next year, 1.5 the following. It also allows cities to do their sales tax. Dating services. It's about 200,000 this year, 300, 300, 350 the following. Lobbying. Nobody should have a problem taxing lobbyists. They are mainly big corporations, and it's really simple for me to come up with that solution, because when we're talking about kids, criminal justice reform, it's empty except for Spike. When we talk about taxes, you can't even move out there. So clearly, corporations can they can offset that. The last exemption I'm removing is swimming pool cleaning and maintenance. Not a big number, but it's just the principle by it. I just don't know that many middle income people who are paying for their swimming pools to be cleaned. What I also did is I took the sin taxes. I moved cigarettes up to $1 from 68 cents. Spirits, I moved up a quarter from 3.75 to 4. And I moved vaping from 10 to 15. That is over combined $53 million this year. Next year, Senator Von Gillen, according to the math on the same charts that we've all looked at, 84 million followed by 86. That pays for electricity. So we're not going to get to dance around. We're actually voting for a motion to go back to select. That's not how this is going to happen when it hits your campaigns. That's not what the flyer is going to say. The flyer is going to say, voted against removing an exemption on electricity. Over what? Sin taxes? And things that what I would deem upper class or rich people do, charter planes. And I don't care about the lottery. I play it every once in a while. It's $1. $1.05 is not going to make that big of a difference. $1.07. They're going to buy their lotto ticket. They're going to buy their lotto ticket. So it's real simple. I'm not taking a lot of time. It's an up or down vote. Are we going to remove electricity from being taxed and have these small exemptions closed and a modest small tax or increase on cigarettes, spirits, and vaping? Yes, I'm not going to say it's a property tax cut, because it's not. It's just a shift of taxes to remove electricity that helps all people. Not just those who own property, but all people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Erdman, you're recognized.
Good morning. I'm going to say hi to Jim back there in Bridgeport, my corn picking friend. I appreciate his help. I'm here today to support whatever it is we may do to make a difference. There are 10 people in this room that are seeking re-election. I went to that list this morning. There are 15 of us leaving, if you include Senator Meyer. So if 2 or 3 of those people that are up for re-election would lose their re-election, that would be a class of 18. that would be the same size as the class that came in 2017. We have come here, or at least I did, I came here with the intentions to make a difference in people's lives. 3% does not make a difference. What Senator Wayne wants to do with electricity is very similar to giving 3% to property owners. Because the average renter may have a $100 electric bill, that's $5 a month. But it's about equivalent to the 3% reduction in property tax that we're offering. I would rather just go home than to give 3%. It's a slap in the face. It's absolutely absurd that a body of 49 has not the intestinal fortitude to do anything. What we should do is ask each one of you on the mic, are you okay with 3%? What are your voters going to say when you knock on their door and say, hey, I voted for 3% reduction in your property tax? I stopped yesterday to fill gas in Ogallala, and those two gentlemen behind the counter said, 3%? They said, my tax is going to go up 15%. 3%? I said, yeah, that's it, 3%. They said, why did you go down there? I said, that's the only amount that this body has the intestinal fortitude to do. So what Senator Wayne is doing is trying to bring it to your attention that what we're doing is nothing. Absolutely nothing. But those of you running for re-election are going to find it very difficult. If you vote for 3%, those people at the door are going to say 3%. If you vote against 3%, they're going to say you didn't vote for property tax relief. You don't have a choice. No matter how you vote on this or not vote, whatever you do, you don't have a choice. It's not going to be good. The only outcome that would really be beneficial to you is to stand up and say, hey, it's time to do more than 3%. It's time to make a difference. I wonder if Senator Hardin would yield to a question.
Senator Hardin, will you yield?
Yes.
Senator Hardin, you and I had a discussion this morning about how we should deal with taxes. Can you share with this body what you shared with me about how we go forward?
My concern, and I mentioned this last week on the floor, is that when we attempt to solve any kind of tax, whether it's income tax, corporate tax, excise taxes, property taxes, in a silo, compartmentalized from the rest of taxation, that what we end up with is, frankly, this kind of frustration, this kind of ambivalence. And when we look at the states that have growing economies, and I realize these states have some different attributes than we do, but South Dakota is most like us. They are one of those states. But you look at Tennessee and Florida and Texas and others, and they essentially have a broad-based sales-oriented tax. They broaden the base of who pays taxes. And that takes courage, because when you attempt to increment your way there, you'll end up very frustrated because the next legislature will blow it up. And that's my concern.
Thank you, Senator Hardin. So going forward, we need to decide what we're going to do, whether we're going to pass on final reading those 3-4 bills and go home, or if we're going to stay here until we get some work done. My opinion is we stay here and figure out how to do something meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Erdman. Senator Moser, you're recognized.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Madam President. And as much as I hate to disagree with my friend Senator Erdman, I think we should push the reset button. You know, when your computer gets all discombobulated and nothing works, turn it off, turn it back on, start over. The process had many faults in my estimation. I'm only one of 49, keep that in mind. Well, I'm sure you're all thinking that anyway. But I don't think enough people were included. I mean, there were, 17 senators, and all the rest of them learned what was going on from the press. And that's BS. We should all be included in the process. And, there were some members of the minority, but the members of the minority that were chosen, I don't think were the most opposed to what you wanted to do. And if you need a number of votes to make it work, you have to include the most adamant objectors so that you can get their input into the process and get a group together to move forward. But including a smaller number of senators and not reporting what the committee was doing to all the senators, I think was a mistake. And so I think we should adjourn, go home. There's no difference in recessing and coming back one day in cost versus having a second special session. At least that's what I learned from talking to the clerk's office this morning, that the costs are the same. I think we're tired, we're crabby, some of us are sick. I think we should, we're working nights and weekends. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is not the process to change our state's tax system. I think we should push the reset button, form a committee of all 49 senators, tax equalization committee, Taxico, if you will, and include everybody, even the most ardent negative opinions on changing the tax structure, and then see if they can come to a conclusion. And if they can get what looks to be a supermajority so we can actually get something done, then call a second special session. But I wouldn't do it not having a good plan in place. Again, I just think the process has kind of winded down. It's too late now to make this big a change, bring it back for another amendment and take the tax off of sales tax. This is how we dug this hole we're in the first place. You can make a case for getting rid of any tax. Nobody likes to pay any tax. Tax on utilities. Oh, that sounds great. Let's take that away. Well, it's $60 million. So where are you going to make that back? We already put a limit on what cities and counties can tax in their property tax. And then we're going to take away the tax income on some other things. We took it off of water already. Looking at these things from just one direction, we're not coming to the conclusion that we need to come to. There's no way to fund taking the tax off of water. It's too late in the process to change it now. It's 3%, but we already had 20%. So let's celebrate. It's getting better instead of worse. It's 23% instead of 20. We could have screwed it up worse than that, I guess. Have a good day.
Thank you, Senator Moser. Senator McDonald, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. I do agree with Senator Moser on one issue that he just mentioned, was that people in this room are tired. They're frustrated, not possibly feeling too well. But that's not just the people in this room. That's the people that we're representing throughout the state. That's the way they feel right now about a number of issues, but one that we're discussing here is property tax. What Senator Wayne has put up with Amendment 137 is an idea on electricity and how to pay for it. So now I want you to think about this. If we're sitting here in January, February, March, whoever's going to be sitting here, the 15 new faces plus whoever is not going to be reelected and the replacements potentially. So the new group of people, but the ones that are definitely going to be sitting here, would you vote for this in January, February, March? Would you be open to Senator Wayne's idea? And if the answer is yes, then why not today? Why not be open to that today? Because one thing about the idea of a governor starting a special session and we have the ability to end it, It's up to us. It's up to us when we finally want to say, stop, we've done enough, which I believe every person in here would say we have not done enough. Or that we're tired. I just don't think being tired is an excuse. I just don't think being frustrated is an excuse, because we know the citizens of Nebraska are tired and frustrated with us and with what's going on. Now, can we fix this overnight? No. Do I support LB 34? Yes, because it's something. It's definitely not close to enough. And I don't want to quit working right now while I still think we have a chance with the people in this room, because people that I'm talking to from my district and around the state are saying, you have to do something now. We can't wait any longer. I'll yield the remainder of my time to Senator Wayne.
Senator Wayne, you are yielded 2 minutes, 53 seconds.
Thank you, Madam President and Senator McDonald. I guess where I'm at today is, if you don't like cigarettes going up to $1, or you don't like vape going up to 15 cents, tell me what you want. We'll draft one. I'm open. But the idea that we can't do something for electricity because it's too late is just mind-boggling to me. There's a couple things I learned in this legislature. No bill we write is ever perfect. Every year we have cleanup bills. Every year somebody interprets how we wrote something differently, and sometimes they go against the entire spirit of the bill because they read something differently. You got to come back and fix it. Sometimes they just flat out don't want to do it. That was Senator Linehan's deal with dyslexia. No matter how many times we passed the bill saying do something, they just didn't do it. That's the nature of where we are. So what I've learned from that is, do it. If you can do it today, then do it. If there has to be a correction, we can correct it, because nothing's ever perfect. So I'm saying we have an opportunity today to remove electricity from being taxed. Are the numbers 100% going to line up? Maybe, maybe not. People stop drinking alcohol, it may change. But I'm giving you a start on the funding. And maybe it's too much funding, maybe it's not enough, but it is a start, and it is a good start. The second thing I learned recently is that if you cook Senator Erdman's corn on the grill with the husk, after you eat it, you become a better person. I don't know what he sprinkles into the ground out there, but every time I ate one, I thought of something new that I couldn't think of before. So I would highly encourage you to get some of the sweet corn that Senator Erdman has. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Wayne, you're next in the queue.
I was trying to hop out. Okay.
Or we can go to Senator Erdman.
Save my time. So I'll talk, I guess. We keep talking about, let me just give you a historical problem. So I did a lot of studying over the weekend of why people are concerned about the LR2CA. And what it comes down to is when Ag got their CA passed and how the state pushed it off on the counties and cities. And what happened was the people passed this constitutional amendment. The legislature decided to lower Ag value without paying for it. And what happened was residential and commercial shot up, not in valuations, but levies across the counties and cities, particularly counties, went up because we didn't pay for it. This has been going on since the 1950s, where we pass things and we don't pay for it. And so what I would like to do is have an amendment brought on to the LR2CA that says anything that's the difference of the actual value and what the legislature decides is the assessed value, we pay for. Now, it's interesting, if we did that, based off of calculations, Ag value is about 1.75 billion, I think. Let me read this right. And why is that interesting is because at a 75% valuation, the state would have to come up with $430 million to fill that gap. $430 million gap that the state has pushed on to the counties and the cities because the state decided not to pay for lowering the valuations of ag. So ag are very concerned. This is a common theme for us, right? Education. Everybody in education is against the idea of relying more on state funding. Why? Because we don't fund it. So I'm trying to do something different. I'm trying to say, let's put in the Constitution that we'll fund it. Think that resolves all or solves everybody's problem. But we probably won't get to that debate because once these 3 bills pass on final reading, people are going to be ready to go home. People are going to be ready to go home instead of actually doing something. So I'm saying at a bare minimum, if we're going to pass 3, somebody said it's 4.5% property tax relief. I think that depends on where you're actually at, depending on your levies. Then we should at least do something for renters and everyday people who maybe not own property. But the benefit of no electricity tax is that actually helps property owners too. It's a win for everybody. And what I heard of the objection was, is how do you pay for it? Well, I'm giving you a great start. And if you don't like one of the sin taxes, I'm willing to take it out. But at the end of the day, for those who are running for office, this is a tough vote. And I'm sorry to do it to you on final reading, because you're going to have to explain to the voter that no, it was actually a motion to return the select file when that flyer hits. And they're going to say, well, why didn't you vote for that? What's your excuse going to be? Because I'm tired, I'm ready to go home? That I don't want to tax charter jets to pay for electricity? That I don't want to tax swimming pool cleaning so we can untax electricity? No matter how you put this conversation, it's not a good one. So you might as well vote your conscience here. Because a no vote, I can see it right now. Senator Blank, whatever, chose not to vote to untax electricity. And they'll cite this motion right here. And when they get that flyer, you're going to have to explain to them. Try to be technical with procedures. It doesn't go very well. I've tried that many times. They're going to say, do you support it or not? Good luck with that conversation with your constituents. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Erdman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to be clear, I'm an equal opportunity offender. So I want to bring it to your attention that the class of 17, even though we've done some things that are very beneficial, we did not as well fix the property tax issue, nor any other tax issue. We were part of that Band-Aid on an amputation group, and we continue to do that. I disagree with Senator Moser's comment on hit the reset. One of the reasons why the double secret meeting committee didn't function correctly or accomplish anything is because we never came to a consensus. We never once had a vote to say, this is what we should do. The other issue is, and I'll be opposed to what Senator Moser said in this regard, the committee was too large. The committee was 17 people. Should have been 7, maybe 9. It's difficult to get a consensus on 17 people. So what would have been beneficial is if 7 or 9 people had made a conscious effort to come with a bill that made sense. And then the month of August or maybe first part of September, we worked that bill with the senators to get their input And then the negotiation that we've been doing the last 17 days would have happened before we arrived, and then we'd have had something that we'd all could have voted for, and we wouldn't have been here for 17 days. So we were dealt a hand that we couldn't play because it was a situation that was too difficult for us in the committee to come to a consensus. And so here we are on the very last day, and we're going to vote for 3%, and we're going to go home. That doesn't sit well with the 14 or 15 of us that are leaving, nor does it sit well with anybody else who's going to go on in the future. So whatever we do, whatever bills we pass today, you will revisit this same exact subject again and again and again. And I say that with a lot of confidence. And the reason I can is because we've done this for 57 years. But it's like communism. They say communism hasn't worked because no one has done it right yet. The reason the three-legged stool concept hasn't worked is because we just haven't applied it correctly at this point. So one more time, making one more adjustment is going to fix it. And I don't know if you listened to what Senator Hardin had to say, but Senator Hardin is spot on the issue, what needs to be solved. So unless you can determine what the problem is, what the cause of the issue is, and then once you have determined what the cause is, then you know how to fix it. But we fail to recognize the problem. We fail to recognize the cause of our taxes being as high as they are. And therefore, we keep doing what we've always done because that seems to be what is acceptable. And so for those of you who are not up for re-election, you're in the same boat that those people are going to be standing for re-election. When you talk to your constituents, they're going to ask you, 3%?
1 minute.
Perhaps you can say to them, who cares? Special session. That'll go over big. So I don't look for this body to move on Senator Wayne's amendment or motion to come back to select for an amendment. But we're going to get a vote. And we'll see where the votes are. It's very unusual that we put in 17 days and accomplish so little. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Erdman. Senator Clements, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand opposed to AM 137. The reason is when we had the original property tax bill, property tax relief opponents said that large landowners would benefit the most. So we don't want to benefit those large landowners. Electricity tax relief is similar. When Facebook came to Sarpy County, I was representing that area and met with them. They said they would need 300 megawatts of electricity, which is 10% of OPPD's 3,000 megawatts of generation. So you're going to be talking about Facebook getting the largest benefit from this proposal. Now we also have Google across the street from Facebook, and Amazon are here too. And they're going to be even more benefits absorbed by these large corporations. The other part of it is this will reduce the property tax relief in LB 34 that we are already getting. And it is less than what we wanted, but this is what the body came up with. So, and also from what I hear Senator Wayne saying, he does not have enough to pay for the $63 million of electricity tax loss. This should have been part of the overall sales tax adjustments. If we would have expanded sales tax some, we could have reduced electricity some and would have been able to work that in with the overall bill. This is, as a standalone item, is not part of the bill that we have passed forward to final reading, and it should be considered in the future, but not as a last-minute addition to this bill. So I encourage your red vote on AM 137. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Clements. Senator Von Gillern, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Nebraskans. It's interesting how we can get off of the topic so quickly. And our frustration is certainly showing, and I'll try and manage mine in this conversation. I actually came here this morning and did something really, really unique, I think, kind of counterintuitive. I actually read through the bill again this morning so I could have an accurate understanding of what it said when we got here to the floor, because I felt I needed to be prepared if we had a 10-minute debate or a 2-hour cloture vote. So I reread the bill. So let me remind us of a few things that are in the bill, and most important in my mind, and the one thing that had to be advanced in the special session were the spending controls. LB 34 has spending lids in it. It follows inflation, and there's been a lot of messaging that's gone around. It's driving me crazy. In fact, even on the radio this morning, I was texting back and forth because they use the term 0% cap. It's not a 0% cap, it's a 0% floor. There are spending lids in LB 34 that move with inflation. We've talked about this ad nauseum over the past few days. We agreed in the group that the governor pulled together this year and last year. There was wide agreement that the issue is spending. Tax taking is tied directly to spending. If you want to reduce tax taking, reduce spending, and the lids apply to the local taxing authorities and will reduce tax taking. That is significant. We are not doing nothing here today if we advance LB 34. 3 to 4% reduction, I agree, that's pathetic. It's a tenth of what I hope to get done in this session. I agree completely with Senator Erdman, with Senator Wayne, that those numbers are absolutely pathetic. I can't even think of another word. But here's the other differentiator. If you live in an area where you're going to see a 10% increase in your valuation next year, guess what? 3% turns into 13%. If you were someone who last year's had a 20% increase in your valuation and you're going to see that next year, 20% turns into 23%, 30% turns into 33%. There were people in Lincoln that had a 50% increase in their property value. You think they wouldn't be interested in getting a 53% decrease in their property tax taking? That's significant. The other thing in 34 is the front loading of the tax credit. And there are those that will argue, and not inaccurately, that that's a credit that already existed and many Nebraskans already took. Absolutely true. About 50% of Nebraskans took it. Well, that 1107 credit amounts to 23 to 33% of your property tax bill. For those Nebraskans who haven't taken that, that's significant. If they weren't able to take it because they either didn't know it was there or they couldn't afford a tax consultant, whatever the reason, don't tell me that's not significant, because it is. I'd like to see much more done in this session, and we had some great plans to do that, and they got resoundingly shot down. And that's unfortunately the way that things work in here. They were submarined by those that were determined to stand in the way of any change in policy, and unfortunately some even stood in the way simply because it was the governor's idea. But it's certainly not the fault of those of us that worked endlessly over the last months. I actually really like Senator Wayne's amendment, AM 137. I don't agree with the way that he's brought it this morning, And it's clear that none of us have had time to really analyze it because Senator Clements, in all respect, Senator Clements, the AM does say residential electricity only, so commercial would not be given an advantage there. But I actually like the idea. And actually, all of the elimination of the exemptions that Senator Wayne brought, Senator Linehan tried to bring last week, and they were resoundingly shot down. So I don't know really where this is going to go. But I guess we'll find out on final reading. But don't convince yourself that we're doing nothing here today. There are parts of LB 34 that will have a lasting impact on property taxpayers in Nebraska. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Von Gillern. Senator Hansen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Senator Von Gillern, for stealing my thunder. He took pretty much everything I wrote down on my piece of paper. So now I'm standing up here aimless, I guess, which wouldn't be the first time. I am opposed to AM 137 for some of the specific reasons also Senator Clements mentioned. I do appreciate actually what Senator Wayne is trying to do here with this amendment. I'm not opposed to it. I think I do disagree with his assessment that those who are up for re-election have to go to their constituents and tell them why they didn't vote for this. I know my constituents would be like, well, why didn't you actually take that money you just got rid of those sales tax exemptions and help me with my property taxes? Isn't that what you're there for? You're not here to reduce my utilities, you're here to reduce my property taxes. That's what my constituents are going to say. As good-hearted and natured as it is with AM 137, it doesn't do what we're here to do, and we're here to reduce property taxes. It's going to help people with a utility bill, not going to help with their property taxes. And like Senator Von Gillern said, 3% is definitely not what we came here to do. But I kind of find it ironic, though, that we talk about the taxing authorities taxing 3% every year and how cumulative that is. And then next we know it's 10% after a few years. So 3% isn't nothing. It can be cumulative. We're doing something. It's better than 0%. It's better than property taxes going up 3%. And now, I'm going to agree with Senator Von Gillern here again too, the caps, I believe, are the most important thing here. This is any senior senator here, how many times has Senator Breezy been up there trying to put caps on schools and counties and cities and failed almost every time? And we do it with this bill, and it's not enough? I think that's, they have to spend like we do now as constituents with inflation. If they want to go above that, now the people get a say on whether their taxes go up. They have to go to the people. I think that's monumental. I'd like to see schools do it since the state isn't taking over how we're going to fund schools. But counties and cities now have to live within their means. Many of them were, some weren't. So caps are huge. And so to just push that off the table like it's nothing, I think is doing the people of Nebraska a disservice. So instead of just leaving here saying, well, I'd rather just leave here with nothing, I think the caps are a big part of it. I do agree with Senator Erdman when he says there wasn't much consensus on the plan, but that's part of the problem of trying to pass a bill. When there's no consensus, nothing's going to happen. I wish there was. I liked LB1. Thought it had a lot of good things in it. I liked LB 34 when it got changed and skinnied down. And I'd like to do more. And I think it's beholden upon us as senators who are going to be here in a few months to make sure we come with a very concise and specific plan that's going to do what the people of Nebraska expect us to do. So I am going to not vote for AM 137 and encourage my colleagues to vote green on LB 34. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Senator Brandt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Wayne. Nobody has done more in here to keep things going, and I appreciate your efforts to come up with new and innovative things. This chamber is an amazing place. We've got 49 people in here that are all the range of sick and tired, but this is one team. And a lot of us have played on teams, whether it was basketball, football, wrestling, track. And you don't quit at halftime. You don't quit because you're tired, or you shouldn't be on that team. I mean, we got sent here to do this, and if we got to come back another day, so be it. This is a good idea. I like this amendment because it uses some of these sales tax exemptions. The committee came out and they proposed, I believe, 113 elimination of sales tax exemptions. Today, 0 have been touched. It's a big win for the lobby out there. This uses 5 or 6 of those. This is a good first step to eliminating more of these down the road. There is consensus when I talk to people in this chamber about getting rid of 20 or 30 of these sales tax exemptions. Their time has come, and we're using them for a good use. We're eliminating the sales tax on electricity. LB 34 front loads the 1107 money. I don't know what this 3% thing is. This is an apple and orange thing, but 1107 will go from $560 million to $750 million. My math shows that's a 33% increase in 1107 funding. It will also be front loaded so that 35% of the people today that do not claim this will see this money now. This will help. The state is on fire with property taxes, and we need a firefighter. And the only professional firefighter in here is Senator McDonald. Senator McDonald, would you yield for a question?
Senator McDonald, will you yield?
Yes.
Is it time to give up?
No. I don't think it's ever time to give up on for the citizens of Nebraska. If you look at, if you want me to continue?
Yes.
Thank you. You used a sports analogy earlier and the idea of what happens. And I remember being involved in athletics, and you look at halftime and it looked pretty bleak. Well, I think you've all probably heard the saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. The idea that when you get tired, your desire to win is lessened. That's why you condition all the prep goes in before a sporting event. I know we're tired, but I think we got to put that in perspective with the people of Nebraska are tired, and that's who we're here to represent. And if the idea was to quit when we're serving the citizens as a firefighter, no, you hit a second alarm, you hit a third alarm, you put the fire out. The idea otherwise, because people's lives and property are on the line. And I believe that's exactly what we're talking about right now. People's property, having to give it up because of property tax, how high it is, also making those decisions based on their lives going forward because of the property tax. People's lives are on the line today.
Thank you, Senator McDonald. I fully support LB 34 in this amendment. I yield the rest of my time to Senator Wayne.
Senator Wayne, you're yielded 1 minute, 29 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we got a draft of the bill before it was dropped, LB1. Came out of committee, and with all due respect to Senator Von Gillern, that came out and was on the floor the next day, 122 pages. So to have an idea that we can't read 15 pages within an hour goes contrary to the 122 pages we got the night before, starting at 9 a.m. It's 15 pages.
1 minute.
It's only residential electricity, so the Googles and Facebooks and everybody else do not get a break. There is a pay for. That pay for is actually more. And so here's the deal. I'm just trying to get a vote. We can keep talking this to death, but let's just get a vote. Even if we go to cloture, we're going to get a vote. But if there's something people don't like, then we can take it out. Send it up to bill drafting, take a 20-minute recess and plug something else back in. The only thing I heard is we didn't want to double from 68 cents to $1.32 on cigarettes. Okay? I have no problem. We can also put it in LB3. Despite my friend Clemens, Senator Clemens, it is germane. We could put it there. But the problem we had is we couldn't move past this lock of not moving anywhere on exemptions.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Hardin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mrs. President. A constituent of mine made an interesting comment several months ago, and he said, when it comes to sales taxes and those being regressive, he said, you know what? I've lived it. Nothing is more regressive than a lousy job. And I think moving forward, that's what we have to lean into, is looking at how do we broaden our sales base and the tax base. And the only way to accomplish that is by looking at all of the taxes, as I was saying earlier. Would Senator Wayne yield to a question?
Senator Wayne, will you yield?
Yes.
Senator Wayne, what would be the total of everything that you were listing, 15 minutes ago? If we were to total it all up, can you get a crayon and kind of give us a round figure in terms of what the pay for would be?
Yes, it is, according to the math that I have, it is a total of 52 million this year, which I think is a little high, and then 83 million and 86 million the following 2 years. So I think the 52 is probably a little high in my opinion, but the other two come straight out of the exemptions that the Revenue Committee was using as their math.
Okay, thank you. And I would yield the rest of my time to Senator Wayne if he would like it.
Senator Wayne, you're yielded 3 minutes, 22 seconds.
Thank you. And so Nebraskans, let me be clear. I don't know which camera it is. I think it's this one, the blue light's on. So I'm going to look at Nebraska here. Let me be clear. There's two things. People don't want to work right now. This vote is about if we start moving just a little bit on exemptions, we could break the dam and actually do something. And there are fear on both sides that if we do that, we might have to work. We might have to work to deliver for you. And we're afraid of that because there are some things we are uncomfortable voting on, some things that the other side is uncomfortable voting on. And when you have a good deal for Nebraska, you got to be uncomfortable. And we don't want to do that today. So this is about delivering for all Nebraskans. Residential electricity should not be taxed. It is truly about a need, not a want. And I'm willing to stay here as long as we have to get it done. I don't know if the rest of my colleagues believe that. What I am willing to do, if this comes back to select, we have a debate on it, move it forward. I'm willing to take a recess for a couple weeks. We can come back after the Colorado game. We'll either be really, really happy or really, really depressed. Either way, we'll probably want to do something. Because if we're really, really happy, we want to do something. If we're depressed, you're going to be so mad you might just vote for things you normally don't vote for. I've seen how this body works. We can do something. And it doesn't have to be today and tomorrow. It's not going to cost any more if the governor decides to call us back in November. We just take a recess and really talk. But I just don't understand how, when you say we're here to deliver property tax relief, Senator Hansen, that electricity is not a part of that when it was included in the package. So clearly there is a thought that we should benefit everyone. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to benefit everyone. I'm not in favor of the bill. This might make me a little bit more comfortable with voting green. I don't know if I will. But how do we not change residential electricity tax? I mean, seriously.
1 minute.
So Senator Hansen's constituent may be different than most people, but I do know there's a lot of renters up there too. And I do know there's a lot of people who are paying a tax on electricity who would like to see their $7 off if it's a $100 bill, because usually there's a local tax too. And so I try to be thoughtful about the local tax too by closing some of the exemptions. That's how I came up with that. If you just take it away and you just use only sin tax, then actually the cities and counties can lose a little bit of dollars. Well, I'm making up for that. I'm making up for that by closing some of these exemptions in areas where, when I'm looking around the cities and counties, make sense. So I'm asking people to vote for green, send it back to select. Let's add it to the bill. And if we got to correct something, as you guys keep saying, you can correct it next year. But at least we're trying to help all Nebraskans. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Halloran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. Sometimes you have to put things in some perspective to have a grasp of what is being accomplished or not being accomplished. 3%. 3% is kind of a meaningless statistic unless you put it in context. I had a constituent who wrote me an email and said he was going to start me a GoFundMe page. A GoFundMe page. Not for my personal benefit, but he said he wanted to commission a statue on my behalf to commemorate my being part of a special session that brought him 3% property tax relief. I thought, well, that's wonderful. That's swell. But he said, Senator, don't get too big a head about that because I'm going to make the statue proportionate to the 3%, right? So I figured it up, 5'3", 63 inches tall, times 3%, that's 1.9 inches. 1.9 inches. I thought, wow, gosh, I've been looked over before, but at 1.9 inches, I'm going to be looked over a lot or overlooked a lot. So keeping things in perspective, even if someone waved a magic wand and said, Steve Halloran, you know, you say a lot of jokes about your height. A lot of people say a lot of jokes about your height. I said, and I'm fine with that. But if someone waved the magic wand and said, Senator, we can make you 3% taller. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. 5'3", I would go to 5'4.5". So keep it in perspective. You know, when Senator Erdman proposed the EPIC, you could go out in the lobby and it'd be like the parting of the Red Sea. You couldn't find any lobbyist that was for the EPIC consumption tax. They were all absolutely opposed to it, and that's not normal. When you or I go out and into the lobby on any bill, we're called out there to talk on a visit with a lobbyist. We'll go out and visit with them, LB 123, and they'll be a proponent. They'll give us reasons why they want us to vote for a bill. And then on the way back in, another lobbyist will say, Senator, I know we didn't give you a request to come out here, but would you visit with about LB 123? And I'll say, sure. And they're against it. So in the same visit to the rotunda, I've got people for it and against it. That's normal. When Senator Erdman proposed the consumption tax, EPIC option, you could go out in the lobby and it was like parting the Red Sea. It's like parting the Red Sea. There wasn't anybody for it. That speaks volumes to me. That speaks huge volumes to me because every lobbyist is against it. Why would they be against it? Well, because their job has been to pick winners and losers in the past. And this would kind of nullify that. Like Senator Erdman said, you know, a lot of lobbyists and a lot of us in here promote bills that pick winners. And by default, everyone else is a loser. If you listen real closely, you can hear the resounding sound of the can being kicked down the road one more time.
1 minute.
I yield my time.
Thank you, Senator Halloran. Senator Moser, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning again, colleagues. So in all the doors you went and knocked on to get elected, how many times was the first complaint that your electric bill was too high? I've never had anybody say that their electric bill was too high. One of the advantages of public power is that we have very reasonably priced power in Nebraska. And the sales tax on electricity does increase the cost a little bit, but if you sold those utilities to an investor, I guarantee you'd be paying more than 7% more. So public power helps us keep the cost of electricity down. And I don't think anybody's going to notice if you take the tax off of electricity. But if you do, it's going to cost us somewhere around 60 million. And we don't, currently without these exemptions, we don't have any way to pay for that. And 60 million versus 5 billion is about 1% again. So you'd be slipping back from 23% to 21 and 0.8% or something like that, because 60 some million out of 5 billion is 1.1% or thereabouts. So tax on electricity is not the problem. Property taxes are the problem. The caps that we put on cities and counties, I question. I'm going to vote for LB 34. I was involved all through the process. I mean, considering it and talking about it. But the caps on cities and counties, most of the counties aren't anywhere near their cap. They have a cap of around, I don't know if it's 0.45% or 0.5. My city is at, I think 30.31 something percent, and I think their cap is 5%. So they've already been somewhat careful, although I question they bought a lot of expensive stuff. But nonetheless, their levy is way under the current cap. And yeah, I think by giving electricity a free pass for residential, you're giving away $60 million. You're digging yourself a hole. We've got all these exemptions already. We've got 127 of them. It's going to be 128 now. And some future legislature is going to have to come back and say, whoa, that was a dumb one. Let's put that back. I doubt if they will. Probably they'll just flounder forward like we have. But public power has helped us make the price of electricity reasonable, and it's a reasonable way to generate income for the state, and I don't think we should be exempting it. If you wanted to add all these things, all these exemptions up, and if they do raise 83 million, I'd vote for this 137 if you take out the sales tax exemption on electricity. But again, I support LB 34. I think we should push the reset button and you never want to give up. You want to stay in the game to the end and all this rhetoric. We're playing Oklahoma. We're behind 42-7.
1 minute.
Let's go home and play them again next year.
Thank you, Senator Moser. Senator McDonald, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I do agree with Senator Moser on one point he made, that when going door to door, did people bring up the idea of taxing electricity? No, I don't think they did. I don't remember that. They definitely brought up, of course, property tax. But I think this is what we're missing. What Senator Wayne's trying to do with Amendment 137 is to say that I want to put $1 back in the people's pocket. And I'm proposing, if you would read it, he's proposing a way to do it through current sales tax exemptions. I think that's worth the discussion. That's worth us reading and looking at, because it does help those citizens, because it puts $1 back in their pocket. Even though, yes, it wasn't something that possibly was on their minds that day when I knocked on their doors. But I got to tell you, if I'd go right in my district right now and bring Amendment 137 and have them read it and say, what do you think? Is this a good idea? I am pretty confident 90+% are going to say, yes, thank you. It's $1 in our pockets. Every dollar's precious, and we need it right now. Senator Erdman had handed out earlier the history, a short history of the taxation in Nebraska. Number 3, in 1966 became the most pivotal year for taxation in Nebraska history. The state property tax was abolished by the voters through Measure 301, and the state legislature passed legislation for the income tax during a special session. People have said, oh, we can't tackle this. We can't do this in a special session. I still believe that when the people that are going to come back here in January, just like every January, there's new bills introduced, there's new energy, of course, but there's so much on the table at once. I believe you will get caught up in that, where today we have the opportunity, we're here. It's been discussed about, oh, we should have had more people in the room back in May. We should have had more time together. And I don't disagree with that. But right now, this is our problem to solve. This isn't the governor's. The governor came up with some ideas, threw them out there. Okay. Some people agreed, some people disagreed. But this is our problem to solve today. We are here. What Senator Wayne is trying to say is that let's take a 2-week break. Let's take a 3-week recess. If we can come up with an idea and we came back for one day and we had a true debate on that idea, and when it's clear that there's not support for that, then fine. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we've had that opportunity for all of us to weigh in individually as groups and look at, okay, fine, we know LB1, LB9, we've gone through that. I always like when people say, well, this is a problem, this is a problem, and I understand that. But I was taught, if you're gonna bring up a problem, you better bring up a solution with it, otherwise you're just complaining. So fine, if that's not the right solution, then bring up another solution. But I don't think we're even close to exhausting everyone's ability in this room and the opportunity to solve this problem. And going back to what Senator Hansen said on LB 34, yes, I'm still supporting LB 34 based on the idea that it does do something. Doesn't do enough, but is spending a problem? Yes, we've seen it. We've also seen unfunded mandates from the state are a problem for the locals. And they brought that to us, local communities and counties. But that's definitely an issue, and this is going to address it. LB 34 isn't enough. It's something, but not enough. Senator Erdman, would you yield to a question?
Senator Erdman, will you yield?
Yeah, yes, I would.
This is your handout that I quoted earlier with the history. Can you kind of give us a briefing on your handout?
Yes, sir. So
1
my
minute.
understanding is we asked LRO to research this, and so it was obvious that in a special session, the legislature had decided to place on the ballot an opportunity to collect a sales tax and an income tax. And when the voters heard that they were going to place 2 more taxes on them, they decided to circulate a petition in 66 to put on the ballot to eliminate property tax. So in a special session, they voted to place on the ballot 2 different forms of taxation. We can do things in a special session. And they've proven that, but back then they had a lot of intestinal fortitude. Maybe that's why they did the things they did.
Thank you, Senator Erdman. I do think we have the same desire and the same ability that they did in that special session now 60 years ago.
Time, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McDonald, Senator Erdman. Senator Kauth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to say I love the fact that we are still trying to figure out a way to help Nebraskan citizens. As I go door knocking, I do talk to people and I ask them the electricity question. Most of them have no idea that they're paying taxes on their electricity. I didn't until we heard it in a committee. I was shocked. I figured that was an essential. We don't tax the essentials. We don't tax those things that you cannot live without. But there it is. So I love the fact that we're still trying. I don't want to lose the ground that we've got with the hard caps. Those are absolutely critical. I support LB 34, but I also support AM 137. If we move it back, I intend to try a floor amendment to add pop, if possible, not candy. We'll not poke that bear. But may I ask Senator Wayne a question, please?
Senator Wayne, will you yield?
Yes.
Senator Wayne, if we are able to get more exemptions on your AM 137, if we move it back to select, will any money over the electricity go to property tax relief?
Yeah, it'll go to general funds, so you would have more funds to put into property tax relief, yes. And so right now, I believe by year 3, I have an extra 12 to 15 million right now.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Again, we're still here, we're still fighting, we're still trying to get things done. If we can get more, I agree that this could break the dam on these special interest exemptions. It could be what we need to say, okay, that didn't hurt so bad. Nobody's, dying, nobody's gotten hurt by this. Let's try more and let's keep adding to our property tax relief fund. So I appreciate the fact that Senator Wayne has introduced this, but I fully support LB 34. We will continue working for this. 3% is not nothing, it's not fantastic, but those hard caps will do so much long-term to protect the investment people have made in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kyle. Senator Wayne. Senator Erdman, you're recognized, and this is your third opportunity.
Thank you, Madam President. So as you deal with this issue next year, you'll have to take into consideration there's going to be at least 15 new people. And so it may be more difficult than you think. The bill that came out, LB1, when it was first introduced on July 25th, that Saturday, I spent a significant amount of time reading through the 144 pages, making notes, copying, pasting my opinions or questions, and then it became LB9. So my staff went through and categorized every section in LB9, what it did, and before they finished, LB9 became Amendment 84. So every one of those opportunities or effort that we put in to understand what the bill was changed before we could do the analysis. So to say that Senator Wayne, his amendment needs more time is inappropriate at this stage of the game. So when we are talking about what we have done and what we are trying to do, those two things don't line up. We came here to do property tax relief, and Senator Boer explained to me that I was incorrect on the 3%. It's 4.5, she said. Well, it very well could be 4.5 this year, but next year it'll be less, and the year after that it'll be less, and here's the reason why. Because this fund, the LB 1107 money, grows $58 million in the next 3 years. This year, next year, and the year after, all right? So property tax is going to go up $1 billion by then, maybe more. And so I don't know if the number is 4.5 or 3, whatever, it doesn't make any difference. It'll still be a decrease in the increase. You can write that down. It's been that way for 57 years, so it'll continue to be that way. A decrease in the increase. So we're going to get a chance to vote. I think closer on this is like 11:15, and then we'll have a vote. We'll see where we go from here. But as we move forward with this property tax relief or so-called property tax relief, the thought comes to mind: what will the governor do with LB 34? I don't know. I haven't heard, haven't seen any information on that. But it's a far cry from getting a total of 40% reduction that he had requested or suggested. So perhaps he will veto LB 34, saying you people in the legislature didn't get the message. 4% or 4.5 or whatever the number is not sufficient. It doesn't get us to 40%. And I think Senator Von Gilleren had commented about how much it was going to be compounded. I'm not sure. I didn't understand the thing he was saying about 20%, 30%, 33%. It's kind of fuzzy math, but that's okay. I don't understand it. But the old saying is that if you don't like the way it comes out, just change the figures. So I'm not sure where he drew his conclusions from. Maybe it's modern math. I don't know. But still, the fact remains that
1 minute.
we have an opportunity, and Senator Kauth alluded to that, we have an opportunity to do more than we're doing. And I think that's what Senator Rain is trying to bring to our attention. He's saying, hey, let's not give up. Let's get together. Let's make some movement. Let's see if we can accomplish something more than we have already put in the final reading here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Erdman. Senator Bosselman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to take a pause here a little bit. I appreciate the discussion that's happening on the amendment, but something come to my attention on this last week on Friday that I think is troubling to me, and it deals with public power. And what public power has done, we passed a bill in LB 1370 last year that restricted nefarious nations from building and maintaining an upkeep of equipment within 10 miles of military installation, from them putting any equipment whatsoever in there from the time of the bill signed till present, or when it went into effect. So let me read a little bit my concern here. I want this to be put on the record because the Attorney General, my understanding, is going to give an opinion on this, the Power Review Board. And I guess I would say I'm very disappointed in PPD, LES, MEAN, and NREA. LB 1370 in part requires that an energy generation facility, whether developed by public power or private developer being built within a 10-mile radius of a military installation in Nebraska, contain no materials, electronics, or other components manufactured by a foreign government or foreign non-government person determined to be listed as a foreign adversary against pursuant to the definition in federal law, which is in 15 CFR 7.4. It seems very clear that the legislature, and certainly I and others who worked on this legislation, intended to place the utmost importance on the safety and security of military installations in Nebraska. What I'm hearing is that a couple of the utilities, which I spoke of previously and are now proposing, that this prohibition may not apply to replacement, reconstruction, or rebuilding of these facilities. All the developers have to do is to certify to the Power Review Board that their facility does not contain foreign manufactured technology, materials, or components, or this is what that's what their negotiation, what they wanted in the amendment in the bill. They certify they are in compliance with the North American Reliability Corporation Critical Infrastructure Protector, or SIP. Over the past few years, there have been growing national security and cybersecurity concerns involving electric generation and other facilities containing technology that was manufactured in China. In March of 2023, the U.S. Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee held a hearing with members of the Department of Energy and private sector testifying that the unknown amount of Chinese-made grid equipment poses a risk to the energy sector and national security. In December of 2020, the Department of Energy signed an order prohibiting electric utilities who supply critical defense utilities from importing certain equipment from China. The former Secretary of Energy released a statement saying, and I quote, "It is imperative we secure the bulk power system against attacks and exploitation by foreign adversaries," end quote. As a Nebraska State Senator, I, too, am committed to protecting Nebraska in the same way. Last session, you may recall LB 1370 contained a prohibition from using technology, materials, or components of public or privately developed energy generation facilities built within a 10-mile radius of military facilities in the state, and required developers to certify the non-use of their facilities to the Power Review Board. And the necessity and intent of this prohibition being ongoing is clear from the testimony on February 22nd, 2024, hearing on this prohibition in the form of an amendment to my shell bill, LB 120. For instance, in response to Senator Janet Hughes's question, the following was stated. Senator Hughes, it's only for new facilities. Senator Bostelman, anything that would be planned from here forward. The body has taken the state's security from foreign threats very seriously. Just 2 years ago, Senator Bostar's LB 63 prohibited components of this sort in the context of communications. This year, in LB 1370, the prohibition passed this body with a vote of 40 to 0, with 2 members present not voting. It is extremely important that both public and private renewable energy facilities recognize that this legislature intended that the prohibition of technology, components, and materials that potentially pose a threat should be ongoing throughout the process of building, maintaining, and operating these facilities within 10-mile radius of any military installation in the state. I want to be on the record making that clear for the benefit of both public and private developers, as well as for the residents of the state of Nebraska. I want to repeat again, the amendment and the language in there was negotiated.
Time, Senator. Thank you, Senator Bosselman. Senator Brandt, you're recognized.
Question.
The question has been called. Do I see 5 hands? I do. The question is, shall debate cease? All those in favor, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
29 ayes, 2 nays, cease debate.
The motion is successful. Senator Wayne, you're recognized to close on your motion.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this vote is about, are we going to move to taxing wants versus needs? This taxes lottery, taxes charter flights, repair and pool maintenance, dry cleaning, dating services, and lobbyists. That provides also for a local tax. So like, think about that. Lincoln will have more revenue for all the lobbying, every cities, city councils, every city from around will also, when you remove an exemption, have a local tax of 1.5. So right now in the local taxes, they're about 5 million. So the loss of electricity is not going to hit them like people think. We would also be moving cigarettes from 68 cents to $1.20 something, I think 24. We add $1 to spirits, and vaping would go from 10 to 15. People say, why is this important? It's important because the renter, the person on fixed income are right now not getting any benefits from LB 34. We're trying to create some balance. And you can't tell me that energy costs have not gone up, because they have over the last 10 to 15 years, while people on fixed income have been relatively the same. It isn't just the 5%, 5.5 from the state. It's also the extra $1 or 1.5 at the city level. So that's 7 cents on a need that we are taxing every month. So if I have to pay a little bit more for my Malbec, for my vodka, to make sure the person down the street lights don't get shut off, and you may not think, oh, it's just $7 on a $100 bill. That's assuming that it's a $100 bill. That extra $14 does make a difference if a $200 bill and you're out of house. And you start adding that up over time, it is significant. If it wasn't significant, then people wouldn't be standing up saying this 3% is significant. And what's interesting is the same people who are saying this LB 34 right now is significant will be next year asking for more property tax relief. So either it was significant or it wasn't. We can't have it both ways. This tax that we're trying to eliminate hits all people. We are shifting it to alcohol, vaping, cigarettes underneath this bill, lottery, which is gambling, charter flights, dating services, lobbying, swimming pool cleaning, and dry cleaning. That is a net benefit to many people in my community, many people in your community, many people across the state. I don't believe it's time to go home. And as a small business owner who is a single member of his law firm, being down here is a huge hit. But I signed up for it. I signed up to be down here to deliver on something for Nebraskans. I think we're all trying to do something, but it's the fourth quarter.
1 minute.
It's time to call a timeout. Give us the opportunity to run the set play we have to run to score, which changes the momentum in the game. And it starts with this vote. If you want to do something for Nebraskans, all of Nebraska, vote green. If you're ready to go up in Troy's bucket and not continue the adventure of Goonies to figure out something bigger and better, then vote red. I would ask for a roll call vote in reverse order.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. There's been a request for a roll call vote. Colleagues, to clarify, the first vote will be the return to select file. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Wishart, not voting. Senator Wayne, voting yes. Senator Walls, not voting. Senator Von Gillern, voting yes. Senator Vargas, voting yes. Senator Slama, Senator Sanders, voting yes. Senator Reapy, voting no. Senator Raybold, Senator Merman, voting yes. Senator Mosier, voting no. Senator Meyer, voting no. Senator McKinney, Senator McDonald, voting yes. Senator Lowe, voting no. Senator Lippincott, voting no. Senator Linehan, voting yes. Senator Kauth, voting yes. Senator Jacobson, voting no. Senator Ibach, voting no. Senator Hunt, voting no. Senator Hughes, voting no. Senator Holcroft, voting no. Senator Hardin, voting yes. Senator Hansen, voting no. Senator Holleran, voting yes. Senator Frederickson, not voting. Senator Erdman, voting yes. Senator Dungan, voting no. Senator Dover, voting no. Senator Dorn, voting no. Senator DeKay, voting yes. Senator DeBoer, not voting. Senator Day, not voting. Senator Conrad, voting no. Senator Clements, voting no. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, voting no. Senator John Kavanaugh, voting yes. Senator Brewer, voting yes. Senator Brandt, voting yes. Senator Bostelman, voting no. Senator Bostar, voting yes. Senator Bosson, voting yes. Senator Blood, Senator Ballard, voting yes. Senator Armendariz, voting no. Senator Arch, voting no. Senator Albright, voting yes. Senator Aguilar, voting no. Vote is 19 ayes, 21 nays, return to select file, Madam President.
The motion is not successful. Mr. Clerk, for the next item.
Madam President, Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, I have FA 97 with a note that you would withdraw.
So ordered.
Senator Wayne, I have AM 130 with a note that you would withdraw that amendment.
So ordered.
In that case, Madam President, Senator Wayne would move to return to select file for a specific amendment, that being AM 141.
Senator Wayne, you're welcome to open on your motion.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a very similar amendment to what you just voted on, but I removed cigarettes for the two people who came up and said they didn't like them. So now the difference in the cost is we are right on the button of what it would cost to remove electricity. The previous amendment, I had a $15 million cushion by year 3. We are right on the button. It is 60 million, 62 million, and 63 million. So we are right on the button of what it would cost. My point is I'm willing to negotiate and figure out how to do what's best for all Nebraskans. So earlier I had some media ask me about this email that I intercept. I want to be clear here. It was from the alternative world. There was no email to the governor from the leadership. It was the matrix. It was a glitch. It was from Zion. If you don't know what that is, you should check out the matrix. and it was signed Governor Neo. So just to be clear, it was not Governor Jim Pillen who sent this to the leadership. It was just a glitch that we're dealing with the same issue. And he said he was going to veto it because we didn't do our job. So I just want to be clear, since the media said, could they get a copy of it? And it was not from this governor, but I really greatly appreciate the people of Nebraska listening at home. That was an interesting vote. There were some people who sat on the sideline. I know a couple of my friends are out of town in Chicago. There is no way for them to reschedule that, especially when they are the delegate vote for the Nebraska, and paperwork is done months in advance for that. But this one does not raise the cigarette tax. I know there's 2 no votes on here that hopefully I can swing them over. I won't mention anybody's name, Senator Michaela Cavanaugh. She's been on that cigarette thing from day one, so I appreciate that. And that's just kind of what I like. I like people who are just going to be honest and transparent about it and keep it moving. And so, but that's how we negotiate. That's how we figure things out, what's movable and what's not movable. And we haven't done that here. We haven't done that here. We had a huge discussion in my house about tattoos and whether it should be exempt. Huge discussion. We had a huge discussion on hair removal and nails in my house and people I talked to. We haven't had that discussion here. We put up a bill, it's up or down. And this entire process was rushed. I can blame everybody, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're here. We're here. I started doing some research because when the first plan came out, or idea, and there was a 2-cent sales tax increase, everybody went crazy. And I'll be honest, I didn't do my research. I just fell in line with going crazy, saying, no, that's a non-starter. Then I started doing research this weekend, going to history of property tax in Nebraska, sales tax around the region, everywhere. Iowa has a higher sales tax than us. Kansas does. South Dakota does. Colorado doesn't. Their trade-off was marijuana. They lowered it significantly. I recognize I can't win that fight today. We'll be the last state in the union to legalize it, and then wonder why our taxes, we don't create as much revenue, because everybody else also has around, kind of like casinos, right? 80% of Nebraskans live within a half hour of a casino already, before we even passed our amendment. Just think about that. So I started doing my research, and I'm like, what if we just raise it a quarter? How crazy would that be? It's about 62, 65 million. Close some exemptions, it bumps up to 150 real quick. That's significant dollars. If it's so bad that all the time that I go to Iowa to visit my family, when I go over there to Council Bluffs because I'm coaching basketball, if it was so bad, I would consciously think that I cannot stop at Casey's, I cannot stop at Quick Trip, I cannot buy this thing over there because it is a half a cent higher. When I go to Des Moines for tournaments, I can tell you the entire basketball organization does not think that we are not going to buy some things because it is 6% versus 5.5%. I never had that conversation in the 30 years, 25 years of coaching basketball when we travel to other states. Hey, let's buy everything here in Nebraska because it's cheaper. And then we're going to transport it with us. I just never had that conversation. So I'm trying to think, who's going to see the difference? A lot of people. Yes, sales tax are regressive. Yeah. But if you offset that with exemptions that hit the higher income brackets, it kind of balances out. But we don't get to have those conversations because we don't want to work. We want to adjourn today and go home. We get to go home and go to the supermarket and say, hey, we delivered 3 to 4% new income tax or property tax break. And for those who get up saying 1107 front loading is something we had to do this special session, what would have changed if we did it in January? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. If we do it today, how much significant change is that gonna be? Because all the budget cuts we're using to pay for the additional things, those literally could have got done by email. In fact, they were done by email. Lee Will just said, we're gonna cut this. They could have just saved that and not spent it, and you guys could have reappropriated next year. So what was special about this special session? The tension that you saw on Saturday and the tension that you see on this floor is because there are a lot of us who want to do something special. But we're trying to get in the room to make it happen, and now the room and the doors are closed and we can't do anything different. We've seen this failed idea happen so many times down here where it's one way and we get it going and then we find out maybe we should have had other people in the room. Maybe we should have expanded the room. I mean, hell, we could do a Google Doc with a checkbox on there, list all the exemptions, there's a line in the sand, and we could have just checked them all. That would have been more productive than what we've done right now. Because I have a hard time believing both sides of the aisle are against removing swimming pool maintenance from an exemption. I just have a hard time believing, except for maybe the pilots who are in here, who would remove the exemption on charter flights. I just have a hard time believing that. I have a hard time believing when it comes to fishing guides, and I'm one of the most avid fishermen in here, paying a little tax on that. And guess what? That's gonna help rural Nebraska more than it'll help urban, because there's not a whole lot of fishing guides in Omaha, nor Lincoln. Typically, it's gonna be your bigger reservoirs in rural Nebraska. Just saying, they'll get also a local tax. I just have a hard time believing we couldn't have a conversation about it and still can't. So here's what I would suggest. Pack up, take a break, come back after the election. It's real simple. After the election, we come a week after the election, so those who are running could take a break. Come back, 3 days of bill introduction. Guess what? Go on Thanksgiving break. Everybody can see everybody's bills. Finish out December strong.
1 minute.
Novel idea. Those who lose the election don't give a damn if they vote for something now. Those who win will feel emboldened that they can vote for it because they won. I think it's a great idea. Not because I came up with it, because I didn't, somebody else did. That staff member told me I couldn't use their name on the mic. So I won't, and it wasn't my staff. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator John Kavanaugh would like to announce a few guests under the balcony. John and Michaela Kavanaugh's mother and father, John Kavanaugh and Kate Kavanaugh, and Peter Kostmeyer. Please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska Legislature. Senator Decay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. From the stories I've heard, according to Senator Wayne, there should be at least one more fishing guide out of Omaha. But on a serious note, everyone campaigning from the governor on down, from the class of 2017 until now, we've all heard about reducing taxes or campaign on tax relief. We talked about it last year. We had 388 on the floor last session. This special session, we had LB1, LB9 were brought. People opposed each of these bills for various reasons. Some just didn't like them. Some party lines took effect. Some were opposing the governor. Whatever the reason, they did not succeed. we will be talking about these taxes going forward. We had the opportunity to seriously get something done the last 2 years with these 3 bills. My frustration is that we are waiting to the 11th hour to pressure the body to do something now when we could have had these conversations during debate and did take exemptions serious enough to do something about it then. I do have to say that Senator Erdman, with his tax models the last 8 years, he's been a champion for his tax model. I'm off of that. I am more of a Nebraska safe person. I would like to see taking incremental steps to get to where we want to be at the final day, but and to get the tax code that we want to put in place. But we had a chance to do this for the last 2-3 years. We've talked about it, and now we're waiting till today to make a difference. If we get that difference made, that's great. If we don't, these conversations are going to persist going forward, and we're going to deal with it. And I think we're going to have a positive impact at the end of the day. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Takei. Senator Ibaugh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand in support of LB 34 and against 41. I kind of concur with Senator Takei in that we're kind of waiting till the 10th hour to do something, and I feel like we have some real momentum going into next year. If you want to do something really unique, yesterday morning we all came in and checked in, and I thought, well, what am I going to do the rest of today? There's always something you can do. But I asked Senator Kauth, what are you doing the rest of today? She said, well, I'm knocking doors. And so I said, can I come with you? And if you want a real unique experience from my district is very rural. For me to knock doors, sometimes there's several miles between those doors. And so I went to Omaha yesterday and knocked on some doors that have a different perspective than I have in rural Nebraska. We had a great time, and we had great discussions with folks. And Senator Kauth does a great job engaging and talking about what we're doing in the legislature right now, what a special session is, and her question is, how do you feel about property taxes? And we had great discussions with folks about what we're proposing in 34, what it's whittled down to, but it still had support because it was something. And even though, managing our farm and ranching operation, I really had the perspective that front loading wasn't going to do me any good because we claim our 1107 credits every year. Well, Senator Von Giller and I have had great discussions on what the additional income or revenue will do to my 1107 front loading this year. Number one, I'm not loaning it to the state for a year. And number two, we will see that relief in December on our statements. So I would encourage any of us to look outside the box. If you're a rural senator, go to an urban district and ask if you can knock doors with one of the senators. I would welcome anybody to come to District 44 if they want to see how many of my rural constituents feel about what we're doing in the legislature. With that, I do stand, and I would also say to Senator Wayne, we've had some real good discussions on this electricity issue. And one of his previous comments was today was, senators, we have an opportunity here to do something. Let's do something. Well, in my opinion, LB 34 does not do near enough, which I've talked to the media this week and stated that, but it does something. And so I stand in support of LB 34. Let's not try the last ditch efforts. Let's do what we can and come back next year. And I'm really inspired to do a lot more next year. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ibaugh. Senator McDonald, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of Amendment 141, LB 34, as amended or not. Back to the discussion with the idea of time, where we are today. Some of the side discussions have been if the idea of Senator Wayne and giving someone $1 back through tax on electricity. It's still $1 back into their pocket. That's a positive. Now, it's not exactly what we came here to do with direct property tax relief, but it's still that $1 back in their pocket. People keep saying that, okay, and I believe they're sincere and they believe this could work, is you regroup next session. Again, we all know what it's like to come in here as a new senator. You regroup, you got for sure 15 new faces, possibly a few more, who knows. So here they are, they're getting started, they're trying to understand and trying to figure out where they're going to be on some of this, on these issues. That is not the best time. And when I say this, if you have a special session, you can see what we've done since we've come back from June 25th or July 25th, where you come back in January and a 96-day session. I've told citizens this. I go, we are like kids in school where you say, okay, here's a book to read and you've got a month to read it. And a lot of us the night before are reading and typing because it's human nature to put things off. Senator Linehan, would you yield to a question?
Senator Linehan, will you yield?
Yeah, for you.
Yes.
In your experience here in the last 8 years, and your experience in Washington, D.C., the idea of having more time, does that always work, or does it come down to, hey, a deadline, and we have to make a decision to get something done? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience over the 8 years and then also in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I definitely remember in D.C. when I worked staff for Congress, it would run up to a break. If it was Christmas and they were trying to get something done, the leadership would just keep coming in. We were supposed to go home on the 20th, and then it'd be the 21st, and then it's 23rd, and wives are calling and husbands are calling and nobody's happy, and they finally make a deal so they can go home. That is the way it works. I don't know how it works now, but that's how it worked then. Here, I've seen the same thing. You and I were very involved in 1107, and we got that done at the end. There were complaints this year about we got the school choice bill passed at the end. We always do the big things at the end. It's the way legislatures work. Much like you said, it's like kids cramming for an exam. You do your work when you have to. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't think it's unusual where we're at. I know sometimes it's tiring and frustrating, but we still have the citizens asking us today, do something now. I don't have people saying that, hey, we don't appreciate something, but again, it's not enough. What Senator Wayne's trying to do, let's say the majority say, okay, well, we oppose Senator Wayne's idea, but what about adding each individual? Now, we got $6.9 billion of sales tax exemptions a year, so approximately 200. Senator Wayne's pulled out a few that I think the majority, if not 40 plus people in here would agree on eliminating to put back towards, if it's not electricity, put back towards property tax relief. Let's have that discussion and get that done to show the citizens that we are going every step possible. We're not leaving anything on the field. We're making sure that we put every precious dollar in their pocket that we can
1 minute.
as we continue this special session. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Linehan, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really appreciate Senator Erdman handing this sheet out this morning. One thing I did notice, it doesn't have LB 775 on here, which I think was in 88 or 89, which should be addition. But if you look at number 7, in 1983, the legislature passed the first sales tax exemptions. LB 363 exempted food. LB 17 accepted film rentals where there was a charge for admission, water and energy used in raising livestock, custom computer software and training. Legislature also passed LB 169, which gave the authority to the legislature to set the sales and income tax rates. Prior to 1983, these rates were set by the State Board of Equalization. And I thought, so I don't remember that from 1983. I asked our Assistant Clerk Brown, who used to set the rates? Prior to 1983, the Board of Equalization consisted of the Governor, Secretary of State, the Auditor, the Treasurer, and the Tax Commissioner. They would decide, not the legislature. I can see why the legislature took that back, though maybe today I wish they hadn't. I know that people don't think LB 34 is enough. I don't think it's enough. We brought bigger things, it got whittled down, then we brought something else, got whittled down either further. But another just more recent history lesson. When we passed 1107, nobody thought that was enough either. Because what we thought we passed, what we actually did pass, was the first year it'd be 125 million, which was 6%, kind of close to what we're talking about today. Not quite, but close. And then the next year it was going to be 250 million, which would have been about maybe 10%. And then finally, by year 5, 375 million is 18%. But what happened, the bill was written in such a way that if we had excess revenue over and above the forecast, well, not above the forecast, I'm sorry, over and above 3.5%, that money would go through property taxes. So we ended up with 546 million the second year. That is exactly the same language we have in LB 34. If our revenues are up over 3%, that money will go to property tax relief. So we don't really know sitting here today. We've got to balance the green sheet, which, you know, may or may not be off $1 billion, to what we're doing here. But we need to get LB 34 across the finish line. I'm torn between Senator McDonald and wanting to go home. I don't know. I'll make that decision when we get there this afternoon. But three things about this bill. 4 things. It does give more relief, so it's going in the right direction. It gives relief to people that aren't claiming it, which is very important. It gets caps so we can slow down. We're not going to stop increases, but maybe hopefully slow down increases. And finally, it has the potential to provide more if our revenues go up, which I believe they will. So I'm willing to stay here, but I also think whatever we decide, at the end of today, we need to take a pause, whether it's a permanent pause or a recess pause, whatever. We need some time to go home and recoup. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hardin, you are recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I like Senator Wayne's idea of coming back in November. I think that's a great idea. Clear our heads, shake our heads, and have an Etch-a-Sketch moment. Senator Bosselman, if you would yield to a question, you were speaking to something earlier that warms the cockles of my soul, which is security around military installations. Would you comment a bit more
Senator
on
Bosselman, will you yield to a question?
Yes, I will.
LB 1370, I think, is what you were talking about earlier. Would you mind continuing in that vein?
Well, yes, I would. Specifically, I want to go back to the hearing and part of your testimony at that hearing. I want to go back. Senator Hughes asked me, it's only for new facilities, if you will, is what it was she meant. And my reply was, no, it's anything that would be planned from here forward. So Senator Hardin testified at the hearing on this legislation about a multi-billion-dollar project to replace a Minuteman III nuclear missile system in the Panhandle. Significantly, he stated that original estimates are around $86 billion, and most importantly stated that the project involving a new missile system in the Panhandle creates a massive national security issue for the area. He also let us know that ever since announcement of the projects, there have been a huge increase in the number of renewable project applications in the area. Stated simply, the United States Air Force has concerns in the fact that about 75% or more of the companies of wind and solar generator projects that come from the same part of the world as a weather balloon from China that was able to float across the United States before finally being shot down in the Atlantic Ocean. It wasn't anything against those facilities. It was just a fact that those facilities are being requested to be built. I believe Senator Hardin was that they do come from China and other nefarious nations, and that's the whole point of what we were talking about, was to make sure none of that material gets back in. I think that was your point as well, to make sure none of that material would be brought in. And I have more information, but that's what I have for right now. Glad to add to it.
Thank you, and I would yield the rest of my time to Senator Bosselman.
Senator Bosselman, 2 minutes 30.
Thank you. I want to go back and finish what I was talking about. Again, I want to finish the statement I have. This body has taken the state security from foreign threats very seriously. Just 2 years ago, Senator Bostar's LB 63 prohibited components of this sort in the context of communications. And remember that that's statewide. That was statewide, not a specific location, but statewide. This year in LB 1370, the prohibition passed this body with a vote of 40-0, with 2 members present not voting. A great majority of the body, 40, said yes to this legislation. It is extremely important that both public and private renewable energy facilities recognize that this legislature intended that the prohibition of technology, components, and materials that potentially pose a threat should be ongoing throughout the process of building, maintaining, and operating those facilities within 10-mile radius of any military installation that is stated in statute in the state. I want to be on the record making that very clear for the benefit of both the public and private developers, as well as for the presidents of the state of Nebraska and our military officials. Again, I think it's very disheartening. Senator Brewer and I have tried to deal with public power over the years, and it gets to be very frustrating at times when they tell you one thing and then turn around and do something completely different later. No one from NPBD, no one from LES, no one from MEAN, no one from NREA came to talk to me about this legislation, about this bill, the statutory language, what my intent was, what the committee's intent was, what this body's intent was before they went before the Power Review Board last week. I think that is a great disservice to this body, to what we do, because now they want to go around what we did. And what we state needs to be done is to make sure that equipment from the People's Republic of China, including the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, China, the Republic of Cuba, Islamic Republic of Iran, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, Russia Federation, Russia, and the Venezuelan politician Nicolas Maduro. Those are the ones that are prohibited.
Time, Senator, and you are next in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those are the ones that are prohibited. And if we're talking about a process that they don't like, that they have to certify something, well, do we need to bring that to the body next year and let's fix that? But you need to certify that you are within the SIP, any equipment you have in there, any electronics or others, as far as I'm concerned, anything you put in. If you put in a new substation, we need to make sure that substation fits within SIP or has none of those companies from none of those nations individual involved. If it's a peaking unit, whatever power plant you put in, that is not in. Any transmission lines, any devices on the transmission lines, because we have them now, they'll tell you where there's an outage, where they're breaking that transmission line is at. Any of that technology that's out there, we need to make sure that it fits. And this body wants to make sure that it fits within SIP. Now they want to go because of a word and make it changes. I think that's very, very telling as to where public power is. And that's something this body needs to take note of for future sessions, since I won't be here in those sessions. This bill, this language was negotiated with public power for specific language to keep problematic actors from providing materials within 10 miles of a military facility from that day forward. Any. So I think I've probably made that very clear. So hopefully the Attorney General's office is listening. I think the Power Review Board members need to be listening. That is the intent of this body. That is the intent of that statutory language. If public power doesn't like it, then they need to come to this body and ask what changes, tell us what changes need to be made. Public power needs to come to the introducer of the bill and say, hey, we have problems with it. Help us work through this. But they don't. They never do. They have a problem with that. Last, I want to talk briefly about, I was on Market Watch Guide just a minute ago. We're talking about, I'll shift to electric rates. Two things. Nebraska has the lowest electric rates in the nation. May 2024 Market Rate Guide. Just looked online. I've got it online. We are the lowest electric rates in the nation. Second thing I want to talk about is we talk about pay-fors. I did receive an email from one of my city administrators saying, hey, if you do this, this is going to cost us $44,000. So this is an E-clause. So there's an E-clause on this bill. So it takes effect immediately. And we don't have any funds to pay for. So what is that going to mean? My question would be, does that mean the city's going to have to raise taxes in town to recoup the funds that now we're taking away by exempting the electricity? So again, idea not overly opposed to the pay-fors, which may or may not cover in a year, 2, 3 years. We are yet to be determined. And we know right now that if this E-clause takes effect 3 days later after the governor signs it, that tax goes away. So now the tax shifts from your electric bill to a city sales tax. I'm not sure that's what we want to do either. So with that, that's the information that I have. I really want to get on the mic today, not to take up any more time than needed on LB 120 and 1370 and what Power Review Board and Public Power is talking about right now, but I think it's very critical as a retired military member that this is something that we just cannot let happen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Clerk, you have a motion on the desk?
I do, Mr. President. Senator Brewer would move to invoke cloture pursuant to Rule 7, Section 10.
Senator Brewer, for what purpose do you rise?
Roll call vote, regular order.
Colleagues, if you would return to your seats, we're on final. Senator Brewer, as the primary introducer, can choose which to regular order or reverse. He identified regular order.
We'll do reverse order.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. The first vote is for cloture. Reverse order.
Senator Wishart. Voting yes. Senator Wayne. Voting no. Senator Walls. Voting yes. Senator Von Gillern. Voting yes. Senator Vargas. Voting yes. Senator Slama. Voting yes. Senator Sanders. Voting yes. Senator Reapy. Voting yes. Senator Raybold. Senator Merman. Voting yes. Senator Mosier. Voting yes. Senator Meyer. Voting yes. Senator McKinney. Senator McDonald. Voting yes. Senator Lowe. Voting yes. Senator Lippincott. Voting yes. Senator Linehan. Voting yes, Senator Kauth. Voting yes, Senator Jacobson. Voting yes, Senator Ibach. Voting yes, Senator Hunt. Voting no, Senator Hughes. Voting yes, Senator Holcroft. Voting yes, Senator Hardin. Voting yes, Senator Hansen. Voting yes, Senator Holleran. Voting no, Senator Frederickson. Voting yes, Senator Erdman. Voting no, Senator Dungan. Not voting, Senator Dover. Voting yes, Senator Dorn. Voting yes, Senator DeKay. Voting yes, Senator DeBoer. Voting yes, Senator Day. Voting yes, Senator Conrad. Voting yes, Senator Clements. Voting yes, Senator Michaela Kavanaugh. Voting no, Senator John Kavanaugh. Voting no, Senator Brewer. Voting yes, Senator Brandt. Voting yes, Senator Bostelman. Voting yes, Senator Bostar. Voting yes, Senator Bosson. Voting yes, Senator Blood. Senator Ballard. Voting yes, Senator Armendariz. Voting yes, Senator Arch. Voting yes, Senator Albright. Voting yes, Senator Aguilar. Voting yes. Vote is 39 ayes, 6 nays, Mr. President, to invoke cloture.
The motion passes. Next vote is return to select file. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
15 ayes, 26 nays to return the bill to select file.
The motion return to select file was unsuccessful. We will now proceed to vote on final reading. The first vote is to dispense with the at-large reading. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
37 ayes, 6 nays, dispense with the at-large reading.
At-large reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk.
Gross Legislative Bill 34, introduced by Brewer, 43, Counter, 46, Holler, 33, Lanning, 39, Mervin, 38, Rabel, 28, Bill for Necklating Revenue Taxation, amendment section 13,508, 1315, 18, 13, 28, 17, 29, 29, 23, 77, 3205, 77, 3206, 77, 27, 142, revised section, Nebraska section 17, 76, 76, 27, 144, 77, 3602, 81, 12, 193, revised section 7, 22, 6, 77, 16, 1632, 1633, 1701, 6702, 77, 6702, revised section 723, Jobs Property Tax Growth Limitation Act and the School District Property Tax Relief Act. Change provision related to the Nebraska Budget Act for budget limited payments from municipal county reimbursement in addition to domestic public facility construction finance property tax course collection tax to local option review revenue forecast and Nebraska property tax incentive of the Nebraska Transfer to Project Fund redefined terms of harmonized provisions provide severability to repeal the original sections and declare an emergency.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 34 pass with an emergency clause attached? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
Voting aye, Senators Aguilar, Albright, Arch, Armendariz, Ballard, Boston, Bostar, Bosman, Brandt, Brewer, Clements, Conrad, Day, DeBoer, Decay, Dorn, Dover, Frederickson, Hanson, Hardin, Holcroft, Hughes, Hunt, Ibach, Jacobson, Calth, Linehan, Lippincott, Lowe, McDonald, Meyer, Mosher, Merman, Reapy, Sanders, Slama, Vargas, Von Gillen, Walls, Wisher. Voting no, Senators Erdman, Holleran, and Wayne. Not voting, Senators John Kavanaugh, Michaela Kavanaugh, Dungan, Blood, McKinney, and Raybold. Vote is 40 ayes, 3 nays, 3 present, not voting, 3 excused, not voting.
LB 34 passes with the emergency clause attached. We will now proceed to LB 34A.
Mr. President, Legislative Bill 34A. First of all, Senator Brewer would move to amend, return to select file for an amendment FA 115, that'd be to strike the enacting clause.
Senator Brewer, you're recognized to open.
Well, I'm looking for my LA with FA 115. Oh. I will withdraw FA 115.
Without objection, so ordered.
In that case, Mr. President, I have nothing further.
Mr. Clerk, please read the bill.
Gross Legislative Bill 34A, introduced by Bill 43, Bill for Activating Appropriation, appropriate funds aid in the carrying of the periods of Legislative Bill 34, 108th Legislature, first special session 2024, declaring an emergency being enacted by the State of Nebraska, Section 1 hereby appropriate $156,000 from the general fund for the year 24-25, so from the general fund for the Department of Program 1 and 2 Canada periods Legislative 34, 108th Legislature, first 620, no expenditure permanent temporary opportunity statement appropriate in the section 2 of the report fund, $750,000 from the school district property tax relief fund for the year 24, 78. $780 million for the school district property tax relief fund credit from 26 to the Department of Revenue Program 122 8 and the provision list of the Legislature first special 24 the Clean Appropriation 50 24 25 750 million cash from the state in which will be such proof and appropriation 50 25 to 780 million for the cash from the state which will be such proof no expenditure permanent temporary salaries for state employees should be made from funds appropriated in this section. Section 3. Since an emergency exists, this act takes effect when passed and approved according to law.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 34A pass with the emergency clause attached? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
Voting aye, Senators Aguilar, Albright, Arch, Armendariz, Ballard, Boston, Bostar, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, John Kavanaugh, Clements, Conrad, Day, DeBoer, Decay, Dorn, Dover, Dungan, Frederickson, Hanson, Hardin, Holcroft, Hughes, Hunt, Ibod, Jacobson, South, Linehan, Lippincott, Lowe, McDonald, Meyer, Mosier, Merman, Reapy, Sanders, Thelma, Vargas, Von Gillen, Walls, Wishart. Voting no, Senator Erdman. Not voting, Senators Michaela, Kavanaugh, Holler, and Wayne, Blood, McKinney, and Rabel. Vote is 42 ayes, 1 nay, 3 present, not voting, 3 excused, not voting.
LB 34A passes with the emergency clause attached. We will now proceed to LB 2E.
Mr. President, Legislative Bill 2, final reading. First of all, Senator Conrad would move to recommit the bill to the Appropriations Committee.
Senator Conrad, you're recognized to open.
Senator Conrad, I have a note you'd withdraw that amendment.
That's right.
Without objection, so ordered.
Senator Clements would move to return the bill to select file for a specific amendment, that be FA 9. Senator Clements, my understanding you'd withdraw that amendment.
Without objection, so ordered.
Senator Clements, I also have FA 10, withdraw that as well.
Without objection, so ordered.
Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, I have FA 32 with a note that she would withdraw.
Without objection, so ordered.
As well as FA 42 from Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, FA 43 from Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, both withdrawn.
Without objection, so ordered.
Senator Hunt would move to amend with AM 48. I have a note she would withdraw that as well.
Without objection, so ordered.
In that case, Mr. President, I have nothing further on the bill.
Please read the bill. First vote is dispense with reading. All those in favor vote aye. Opposed, vote nay. Ms. Clerk, please record.
39 ayes, 4 nays, dispense with the at-large reading.
The reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk.
Gross Legislative Bill 2, introduced by Clements 2 at the request of the governor. Bill for an act relating to appropriations to amend laws 2023, LB 814, Section 13, 29, 30, 31, 40, 112, 138, 147, 48, 151, 52, 205, 207, 214, 220, 227, 238, 239, 240, 271, 275, 293, laws 2024, LB 1200A, Section 2, and laws 2024, LB 1412, Section 57, 58, 59, 61, 86, 87, 89, and 107, to define terms to provide, change, and eliminate appropriations for the operation of state government, state aid, capital construction, to repeal the original section and declare an emergency.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB2 pass with the emergency clause attached? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
Voting aye. Senators Aguilar, Albright, Arch, Armendariz, Ballard, Boston, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, Clements, Day, Decay, Dorn, Dover, Halloran, Hanson, Hardin, Holcroft, Hughes, Ibaugh, Jacobson, Kaufman, Handler, Cotlow, McDonald, Meyer, Mosier, Merman, Reapy, Sanders, Slama, Von Gillern. Voting no, Senators Bostar, John Kavanaugh, Michaela Kavanaugh, Conrad, DeBoer, Dungan, Erdman, Frederickson, Hunt, Vargas, Wayne. Not voting, Senators Walls, Wisher, Blood, McKinney, and Raybold. Vote is 33 A's, 11 A's, 2 present, not voting, 3 excused, not voting.
LB2E passes with the emergency clause attached. Next bill, Mr. Clerk. We will proceed to LB3.
Mr. President, final reading Legislative Bill 3. Senator Conrad moved to recommit the bill to the Appropriations Committee. Senator Conrad, it's my understanding you'd withdraw that motion.
That Senator Conrad, Senator Wayne has objected to withdraw, so you are recognized to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that you vote down this motion as quickly as possible so that we can proceed with final passage of LB3. Thank you.
Senator Wayne, you're recognized to speak.
So the reason why I objected is, thank you, Mr. President. The reason why I objected is on final reading, you can't speak unless there's a motion on the board, or a motion. So I'm objecting to this motion because I want to talk to people about housing in general. Right now, interest rates are almost 2.5 times higher than they were about 6 years ago. When the valuations of your home goes up, your insurance goes up because your home value goes up. Electricity bills have gone up over the last 15 years. It is what Senator Erdman says, a decrease in the increase on property taxes. We are making homes damn near impossible for a first-time homeowner to do something. So what I want to propose in this little thing, this little 5 minutes I have, is I was looking at the calendar, and we can take a recess today. Come back November 18th. That is a week after the election. Have 3 days of bill introduction. That would be November 20th would be the third day. And it wouldn't be bill introduction per se. It would be amendments on current bills because we would continue the same one, have all those drafted so people could see them after the 18th. We would treat it as a bill introduction because we probably have to have some new hearings on them if there's new things. Take a week off because we'll have actually a week and a half because we'll have Thanksgiving the 28th and we could come back Tuesday the 3rd and figure out if we got any closer than we are today. And if it's not, we adjourn and go home. but at least gives us the opportunity to come up with some amendments, have some conversations. After those amendments are drafted and looked at carefully, they could actually be read across on bills, on amendments, to see which ones people have came up with that are legit. And if it doesn't change anything, we're done. But I'm not willing to quit and give up, so I probably will drop a recess motion till November 18th after or during, depending on after or during discussion of LR2CA, and see what happens from there. I would like to get LR2CA done. I actually have been working with the ag groups over some different languages, and I think I got a pretty good solid amendment to the LRCA2 that I would like to share once bill drafting gets done. It's about the 4th iterations of different language and the concerns that people have brought up. I just feel like we need to do more. And unfortunately, look, when it comes to distrust in this place, I've probably been burned more than anybody else, because I've been the 33rd on too many things. I have senators in this body filing amicus briefs along with the governor on LB 20 for felon voting. Literally, my colleagues are filing an amicus brief just because they didn't like the bill. Not only are they losing here on a vote, but now we're trying to influence the judicial branch. The governor, who allowed it to go into law, didn't veto it, but now wants to file an amicus brief to say it's unconstitutional. On LB 50, we all saw that song and dance. An issue that was never brought up in negotiations is now before the Supreme Court. Well, it will be before the Supreme Court. I can count deferred judgment. That went to the Supreme Court. I have been burned and burned and burned. And if anybody is ready to get out of this body, it is me. But I'm still trying to work. I'm trying to work because I go to Hy-Vee and people talk to me. I go to Baker's and people talk to me. I go to Walmart. I go to Target. I go to the gas station. And I know how this body works. You're going to have 15 new people.
1 minute.
You're going to spend 2 years of being told what to do by the lobby, and you're not sure what to do. And that second year, guess what? You're back into an election cycle. People are going to be running. So I think after this election, maybe people will have the I don't care idea because they lost, or be emboldened because they won. But either way, that mentality favors us getting something done. So I don't get to talk during a recess, a motion for a recess, or a motion for adjournment, or a motion for sine die. So I'm throwing that out there of why I think it's important to do it, because I don't think you understand how much turnover means in this body. People pass term limits to get rid of one person, and it's coming back to biting world more than it is anywhere else.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator McDonald, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of LB 3, opposed to the recommit. Having a chance to talk to Senator Wayne under the balcony earlier about the idea of November 18th. We have been listening. We have been listening to all the concerns and legitimate concerns of our fellow senators on the floor. There's people that have commitments. There's people that are tired. There's people that are running for reelection. We understand all that. But if you look back on LB1 and LB9 and you start looking at the vote card and how many people were supportive, how many people were totally opposed, how many people were trying to get there. We had a chance there for a moment based on making some changes, which the Revenue Committee worked hard on doing that. We're not as far off of doing something bigger than what we're doing today than we think at times. I think, again, because of fatigue, frustration, the idea that Senator Wayne's putting out there, it's an opportunity that doesn't risk much because of this. We come back on the 18th and we have totally failed. We have totally failed on new ideas, old ideas to get to 33 votes. Okay, that's a possibility. The other possibility is we have something that 33 plus people in this room have worked on over the last couple months, coming back on November 18th, and have an agreement. Now that opportunity is pretty exciting, not for this group, but for the citizens of Nebraska. But also it's pretty fulfilling for us based on we did not give up. We listened to each other. We took into account trying to learn from some of our mistakes. The idea of, okay, how did we get here on July 25th, and what did we do prior to that? And what did we do last April, and LB 388, all those things coming together. I think we're closer than we realize if we have time. And the worst case scenario is I'm wrong and we're sitting in the same spot we are today, but at least we showed the citizens that we are willing to do the work, which I know all of you are because I see you do it every day. We are willing to listen to each other and them and try to bring something back on the 18th of November that the citizens could say, yes, thank you. Thank you for working. Thank you for bringing something forward that is going to help them every day with their lives going forward on true property tax relief. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Erdman, you are recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remember very well when we voted on term limits. And then when my son was a state senator, on that day when you get sworn in, it's the first day of the legislature, your family can come on the floor. And I remember visiting with Senator Chambers, and his comment to me was, they did term limits to eliminate me. And he said, by doing that, they've eliminated an opportunity for your son to serve more than 8 years. And he said, young people like that have an understanding of what should be done and how to do it are going to be gone. He was right. I told Senator Holleran, just when you figure out where the bodies are buried, you're termed out. And I say that in regard to the University of Nebraska and their cash funds. I say that to the amount of reserve that Game and Parks has, and many other issues that have come about in the last 8 years that I've been aware of that I wasn't aware of earlier. And one of the things that probably is maybe the thing I might regret more than anything is I didn't spend enough time negotiating, compromising. Because you see, the Erdman motto is, we may be wrong, but we've seldom been in doubt. That's a problem. It's a problem in some ways, others it is a benefit. But there are ideas that have come about in the last 8 years that I realize, now looking back, that may have been a situation where we should have made some compromise. But term limits is going to limit all that. And Senator Wayne couldn't emphasize it enough. Those of you going on next year can never imagine how much difference it's going to be when we're gone. Not that we're outstanding, it's just that we understand what happens here. And so by the time the new class of 15 or 16 or whatever it is gets up to speed, then the next class is going to be gone. I voted against term limits because I figured if the people in Omaha wanted Ernie Chambers as their senator, they should be able to vote for Ernie Chambers. I still feel that way today. A lot of the things that have happened over the last 20 years plus of term limits is a culmination of not having the institutional knowledge and history to make decisions based on what we've tried before. And as we begin to research what this legislature used to do, and Senator McDonald alluded to the fact on that history that I gave out earlier, unless you go back and look, you didn't realize or don't understand that the legislature met every other year until 1975. The state collected all property tax for 100 years and redistributed it. And there are many other things that one discovers when they look at history. And I believe the reason that you study history is so you don't repeat it. And so for 57 years, we've been doing the same thing and expect different results. So review history, look at what we've done, and don't keep doing what we've always done for the last 57 years because it doesn't work. Thank you.
Senator Wayne, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Senator Erdman said everything so eloquently. It's amazing that you probably our first 2 years would have had Erdman, Holler, and Wayne talking and working together. But over time, you get to know people and figure out where they are, and you figure out compromise. It sounds like I'm lecturing, but I'm really talking to the Nebraskan people, not necessarily this body. There are a lot of things that I wish I could change and that I missed the opportunity because you are only now here for 8 years. One thing is termination of parental rights and the lack of rules of evidence. You may say, what does that mean? Well, rules of evidence are passed by us in criminal matters to say we should use the best evidence possible when convicting somebody. That's why you have hearsay and things that aren't allowed, because we should use the best evidence possible. That is the theory behind rules of evidence. You steal a piece of Snickers or a candy bar or anything, rules of evidence in your criminal case applies. But when it comes to losing your child in juvenile court, rules of evidence don't. You have more procedural safeguards when you steal a piece of candy than you have when you lose your child to the system. I brought that bill once. I should have brought it a lot more. But you can only do so much in 8 years. The last 2.5 years was tied up with grants to North and South Omaha and actually the rest of the state. The fact that if you are a step parent and you want to adopt a child, you can't. That is insane policy. That's just a little bit in my area. Property tax I hear every year, and every year it'll keep coming back. But you're gonna have this turn of new people that won't make a difference, I think. So I asked when this recess motion comes that we give ourselves another chance. As Senator Moser said, hit the reset button and give it one last effort. And if it don't work, it don't work. If it does, then maybe we can do something. Now, some of you will say, well, can't the legislature call itself back? Well, first of all, I think that statute is a little constitutional, maybe some issues, because nowhere in the Constitution does it say the legislature can call itself back for a special session. Second, I tried that with Senator Brewer, I think our second or third year, second year, on property tax issues. It was property tax, and we couldn't get 30 people to say we want to come back. Secretary of State sends out a letter, you got to send back a certified letter saying you want to happen underneath the statute. We couldn't get 30. I think we had like 24, Senator, if I remember right. So I hope we can do better. We get to LR2CA. I'm going to send out an amendment on the floor, see what people think. It's only got like an hour left, and we'll still be taxing grandma the same as we do Walmart and Target. That's a tough vote too politically. Target gets taxed the same as grandma down the street. And what my amendment will do is it'll add some statutory language around the fact that if the legislature lowers the tax burden in any of these classes, it can't shift the tax burden to the other class. So that means businesses, you're stuck at 95% of the market value to 100%. Ag, you're stuck at 75. We can go lower, but we can't shift it to you, which is ironic because there's court cases that already say that. But people like to read things instead of trusting the case law, so we'll add it. So maybe we can have an honest conversation around that later. But at the end of the day, I think people just want to go home and tax grandma's house, no different than Target. Good policy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Conrad, you are recognized to speak. Senator Conrad waives close. Senator Conrad, you are welcome to close on your motion. Senator Conrad waives close. Colleagues, the question before the body is the motion to recommit to committee. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
7 ayes, 38 nays to recommit the bill.
The motion is not successful. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, final reading. FA, Senator Clements, I have FA 13 and 14, both with notes that you would withdraw.
So ordered.
Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, I have FA 41, 45, and 44, all with notes that you would withdraw those.
So ordered.
In that case, Mr. President, I have nothing further on the bill.
The first vote is to dispense with the at-large reading. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Mr. Clerk?
38 ayes, 5 nays, dispense with the at-large reading, Mr. President.
The motion is successful. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Gross Legislative Bill 3, introduced by Clements to request the governor bill for accumulated funds amendment section 8604 9 1107 now 13 27 37 143 40 44 116 41 113 63 02 60 1505 60 1509 50 13 72 32 3202 74 13 17 81 10 10 81 10 11 10 04 81 11 17 81 11 20 29 reissued statute section 37 37 27 03 37 10 17 38 157 39 90 61 22 81 1 79, 81, 80, 93, 93, and 81, 03, 2203, 81, 11, 08, 22, 81, 12, 81, 15, 58, 81, 77, 81, 84, 12, 77, revised section 7, 26, 79, 31, 18, 18, 12, 18, 15, 178, 81, 31, 22, and 81, 12, and 9, revised section 7, 23, and 16, 18, 11, 20, reissued by such special amendment by last 24, until we 1074, section 48, section 48-612, reissued by statute of amendment law 204, 1436, section 36, section 59, 160844, revised statute of Nebraska amendment law 2004, WB 14, section 14, section 77, 33, 2702, revised statute cumulative up in 2022, submitted by laws 2024. LB 1108, section 1, section 55-109, revised statute cumulative summons judgment by law 24, 2013, section 39, section 144, revised statute cumulative summons 22, is amended by law 24, 40, 30, section 42, section 68, 1996, revised statute cumulative 22, is amended by law 24, 62, section 3, law LB 5857, section 9, law 24, LB 09, section 3, law 2024, LB 905, section 2, law 2024, LB 9, 1413, section 43, section 77, 5601, revised statute cumulative 22, is amended by law 2024, LB 1317, section 95, section 13-18 of our revised section something by law 2024, LB 1413, section 34, section 61-2018, revised section 23 is amended by law 2024, LB 1368, Section 9, Section 77, 40, 25, by statute of 2023 as amended by law 2024, LB 1244, Section 36, Section 84, Section 612, by statute of 2023 as amended by law 2024, LB 600, Section 9, law 2024, LB 1413, Section 58, Section 86-324, revised statute supplement 2023 as amended by law 2024, LB 1413, Section 59, to provide for change and eliminate fund transfers, provide powers and duties, change the use of certain funds with the investment earnings of certain funds, to eliminate obsolete provisions, to harmonize provisions, to repeal the original sections and declare an emergency.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 3 pass with the emergency clause attached? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Mr. Clerk, please record.
Voting aye, Senators Aguilar, Albright, Arch, Armandaris, Ballard, Boston, Bostar, Bosman, Brandt, Brewer, Clemens, Day, DeBoer, Decay, Dorn, Dover, Hanson, Hardin, Holcroft, Hughes, Ibach, Jacobson, Calc, Linehan, Lippincott, Lowe, McDonald, Meyer, Mosher, Merman, Reapy, Sanders, Slama, Vargas, Von Gillen, Wishart. Voting no, Senators Kavanaugh, Conrad, Dungan, Erdman, Frederickson, Holler, and Hunt. Wayne. Not voting, Senators Walls, Blood, McKinney, and Raybold. Vote is 36 ayes, 9 nays, 1 present not voting, 3 excused not voting, Mr. President.
LB 3 passes with the emergency clause attached. While the legislature is in session and capable of transacting business, I propose to sign and do hereby sign LB 34, LB 34A, LB 2, and LB 3. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, a priority motion. Senator Hughes moved to recess the body until 1:00 p.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. We are recessed.